As you can tell, my mustache is still very pronounced, but I have a little shadow right now because I've been kind of scrunkly, and I've been working on album shit nonstop, and I have not had time to properly shave it in. It's still pronounced. I'm pleased at how it's showing up.
I'm just curious. That's how it grows when you don't shave at all.
Yeah, it's literally just here, and like the cheeks. I got fucking robbed, dude. I got robbed of the cheeks.
I don't think so, because like I would rather have that than like me. Like I actually have to shave every day, but it's just to keep it from like growing all the way up to here and shit. And because I don't like the way that looks or feels. So I do a little bit just to keep it, nice.
I'm just glad the mustache isn't nerfed by the faint goatee creeping in. If anything, it adds a little charm.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's Lulu time, so party.
It's too early here, and it's Sunday. I don't drink during the day or on Sundays.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
I do all my drinking on Friday nights and Saturday nights, and then the whole rest of the week I'm a good boy.
Fair play. It's a healthier pattern than mine.
I mean, I haven't always been this way. When I was a little bit younger, not even that much younger, I'd drink quite a bit all the time, but not anymore.
It happens, you're out for a family meal and suddenly you've sunk 8 of the fucking things. And
yeah.
But yeah, it's,
so we have to say
Reviewculous, yeah?
Reviewculous. This is hi everyone. This is Cranked and Ranked, but today is a CNR sidebar, and it's Reviewculous 2, Electric BoogaLulu.
BoogaLulu. Oh!
Did you like what I did there?
Holy shish kebab, dude.
If you're new to this, because I guess we've done this 3 times, because there was that one episode where we had no plans whatsoever and we started reading reviews.
Yeah, that was just kind of a soft launch pilot. In actual fact, I've just realized that I need to shut the windows. So stall them. All
right. I'm just going to explain what it is. So the first Reviewculous, essentially we started going to the Encyclopedia Metallum, or the Metal Archives. And we decided to start reading reviews, like bad reviews for good albums, or vice versa, good reviews for bad albums, or whatever, just anything that we felt we could react to and riff on. And last time we did it, a lot of people seemed to really enjoy it. So we're back for round 2. And the focus, at least in the beginning here, is strictly going to be the album Lulu. That was the Lou Reed album that has Metallica as the backing band. I would not really... It's a Metallica album to me, but like we didn't rank it in their discography because I'm like, well, I mean... It's really a Lou Reed album, and Metallica are on it. But in my world, because I like some Lou Reed, but I'm not a Lou Reed fan, but I'm a massive Metallica fan. And so I own, I think, 3 different versions of Lulu. Yeah.
That is truly, that's diehard Metallica fan right there.
Well, yeah, because I believe, I have a CD, the vinyl, and then I have a CD box set that has a book.
Yeah.
As well.
Do you get the tube one that has the big poster in it? I remember that being a thing.
No, I didn't get that one, but that was all it, half of that, well, two-thirds of that was, down the line as the album became a lot more special to me. So yeah, if you're coming to this expecting there to be shit talking of Lulu, it's not going to happen for me, because I think
it's not from me either, because I've sorry, I kind of cut you off there. But,
no, you're fine. You're fine.
I kind of want to preemptively come into this with, not only do I feel like I've matured a lot since this came out, like, you got to bear in mind, I was barely a teenager when this came out. I had
2011,
yeah, I'd been 13 for about 4 months at this point.
this was your Nirvana Nevermind. Change the way we see. It's funny because, like, I will poke fun at this album from time to time about stuff, but for those of you who haven't heard me, I've said this many times, but I'll say it again for those of you who may be newer or want to kind of know where I'm coming from. So, like, I was a big Metallica fan, and then honestly, like, I kind of fell off around Reload. Not really fell off, but it wasn't as exciting to me what they were doing. And even like Saint Anger, when I first heard it, I didn't think it was awful. It just didn't click with me right away. But then when Death Magnetic came out, I was, oh, holy fuck. I love that album, and it won me back over, and I became a full on fanatical Metallica fan and have never stopped. But I think the reason why, the thing that solidified me going, okay, I love this band, is the fact that they had come off of doing Saint Anger, which so many people hate, and I've grown to really love. Then they did Death Magnetic, but so many people use the phrase return to form, in reviewing that album. And then the next thing that they drop is a collaboration with Lou Reed. And I remember, like, sitting up late at night, because this was after my daughter was born. And I'm sitting up late at night with her, and they dropped the first track of this, which was the View. That was the first track they released from it before the album ever came out. And I just listened to it, and I was just like, holy shit, this is going to piss so many people off. That's why this is the best fucking band in the world, because they literally do not play by other people's rules ever. And I absolutely love it. Oh, we get a live contact lens. Sorry for the podcast people. We get to watch some contact lens action.
Sorry, I haven't seen myself with a mustache and glasses in the little thing yet, and I thought, who the fuck's this dweeb?
Anyway,
there we go.
So
it is.
I really enjoyed Lulu for what it was, but it's got some funny things about it, of course. But of course, just like I am with a lot of albums that are unfairly maligned and people are just stupidly, aggressively rude towards for no apparent reason, that it's just not what they want.
Well, here's the thing. We're both 80s metal fans that think the early 90s is the best era.
Yeah.
And that just pisses people off anyway. So it's like, we definitely... Yeah.
So as the album gained more and more traction as, like, this is one of the worst albums ever, and it's like the thing that people will say, what about Lulu? And it's so tiring. So it's become more and more and more special. I'm just like, well, fuck you. I'm going to take care. Lulu's going to have a special place in my house. Same thing with all of their albums. So that's why, like, I'm interested not only in reading, good reviews, if there are any, of Lulu, but I want to read the bad ones too. Like, I just think that'd be fun to do. And I already pulled it up on so yeah, we're going to read reviews and we're going to react, like the kids do on their channels, reaction videos. I'm going to open up this brand new Lego set and react to it. Whoa, some Legos.
Man, I loved Legos when I was a kid. And Connects.
I've never been that creative with that kind of stuff. And so, and back when I was a kid, I don't remember there being Lego sets. You just got a box of Legos and you just made whatever you could make with it. Whereas now they're like the Lego Eiffel Tower or whatever. And I'm just like, I would still struggle with doing that. I struggle with doing simple puzzles with my kid, back when they were younger. Simple puzzles, I would just be like, I can't fucking do this. A grown ass man, I can't fucking do this.
Well, I'll say something now. I'm going to jump off of Lego and bring up Kinects for a moment. I don't know if Kinects is as big over there as it is in
Maybe
Europe.
it was after my childhood. I don't know.
Yeah. It's pretty late to the game compared to Lego. But when I was about 9 years old, or coming up to 9 years old, I was saving up like my pocket money for months at this point, and I would get like £5 pocket money a week. And that could be for anything. You see something you like, there's a new game out, you could buy that with that money. Or if you did good in school, you get a little reward, and I'll buy you Grand Theft Auto, even though you're 10 years off the age that it's rated.
That's how I got a whole lot of my albums when I was younger.
But I remember being about like 8, 9 years old, and then around the 9-year-old mark, I was like, "Hey, I've been saving up for a Nintendo DS for almost a year, and then all of a sudden it just suddenly clicked with me. Like, I love this Kinect stuff. It's the little thing where it's like sticks and the things that connect the colored sticks to the other sticks.
Oh, and it has like a bunch of holes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. I still have the massive tub of that shit in the room in this house. But like, I remember one day where I was like, right, okay, I've learned all the easy builds. I've learned all of the intermediate builds. Time to start learning the big builds. And then the pride on my face when my 9-year-old ass just sat down for this like SpongeBob marathon one day, and I just sat myself in front of the TV. This is just a really wholesome childhood throwback right now. But I remember I just said to myself, right, what is at the end of this instructions book that came with this tub of Kinects that I thought to myself, right, I'm going to prove to myself today that I am more than capable of building this big ass thing. Whoa, surprise dog. Surprise dog.
You don't need to bark at whatever you're barking at.
He's like, I love Kinects too, man. Yeah. But anyway, I just remember this, like, the most complicated thing in this instructions booklet was it was a backhoe, like tractor digger sort of thing, and it used like almost every piece in the tub that you bought. And I bought multiple tubs of this shit. This is how into it I got. I even bought the pinball machine set that let you build your own pinball machine out of this stuff.
Holy shit! Okay.
Yeah, I was deep down the rabbit hole, and I would like it would usually come with this like little brochure that would be like, hey, here's some other sets that we sell. And I remember that, like, I fantasized as a kid about getting the big air ball tower that had like a fan that would blow these balls down this course. I never got around to purchasing that, but the fact that I built a pinball machine and started just building the most insane stuff, my proudest achievement from this whole time was using my own brain.
Give me a second.
Okay. Old Head's taking his dog out of the room, and now he's back in his seat.
I'm just like, they can go be crazy out there. It's nothing fun's happening in here anyway. Like to their ears, I'm literally just sitting here silently and then occasionally go, ha ha.
I mean, I guess
is he doing?
I guess I can understand why they misinterpret that, but honestly, my proudest Kinects achievement might be when I built a Dalek out of it.
Oh shit!
From Doctor Who, and I'm not gonna lie, the measurements weren't far off. I mean, there were a few parts that looked a little janky, but 95% of it looked pretty damn authentic. And thankfully, I had the like flexible pieces where if it didn't 100% fit, you could kind of curve it upwards a little bit.
Yeah,
and yeah.
I was.
How do we get onto Connects?
I don't know,
love
but now you got me going down a rabbit hole of these things that I had when I was a kid that were called constructs.
Oh,
And
cool.
they were all these different things, like if you can see that picture there, it was like
Oh, dude. We have something similar to that over here. It was called Meccano, and
and there was
built
even like
cars.
there was even like spaceship constructs, but
Yeah.
it was just like you put together the toy kind of thing. There's a few
Yeah.
different things from my childhood that all of a sudden I just now started thinking about. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I had that. Man,
I remember these like dragon themed Mega Bloks sets I got one Christmas in like 2004 or something, and I just remember like getting that on Christmas Day. And you see, if there's one thing I miss from being a kid, it's like seeing the packaging of a toy and just your brain being lit on fire by it, just being like, what the fucking, it's the fucking He-Man castle, it's the fucking it's the fucking Tracy Island from Thunderbirds, like shit like
the
that.
fucking Christmas where I got Snake Mountain,
Yeah,
with the microphone that you would talk into. I fucking loved that.
I remember the Christmas I got a fucking Bop It. And for like a solid fortnight, it was just me and my own mum going back and forth, and she would like nudge me if I was like playing Grand Theft Auto or something. And you know how hard it would be to distract 9-year-old me from that. And I just remember her nudging me and saying, "Hey, just beat your high score on Bop It." It was like, "Oh, it's on, dude!" And I would grab that. I think it's the Bop It Extreme 2, when you had spin it, flick it, pull it,
Oh shit!
bop it, and
Pull it.
There we
Twist
go.
it.
There it is. Twist it. That's the one I was forgetting. The yellow one.
Because the only one I've ever played has 3 things: bop it, pull it, twist it. That's all you do.
Oh man, I had the Bop It Extreme 2, which had like 5 things that you had to pay attention to. Man, you knew you were doing well when Flick It entered the equation. Is all I'm saying. You were like, "What? It's the green wiggly one." Yeah.
This episode brought to you by Bop It. 'Cause at least I know that they still make those. That's still a thing.
Yeah.
'Cause I see them in the stores sometimes. What? Here's where we reset. And now we're resetting. Reviewculous.
Pardon me.
Reviewculous. I have it pulled up here, and I'm just looking at. There's plenty of 0% on here. So although this one caught my eye because it's 0%, and the review is just called "Fuck Metallica."
Okay.
This is from August 18th, 2015. So this person had a few years to really get mad at this album. Let's read the review. Is this long? This is not super long, but this is a good start. This is his name is Guilty Spawn. Guilty Spawn.
Okay.
From 2015. These are his thoughts on the Metallica album Lulu. This album is not just the worst Metallica album ever made, nor is it merely the worst heavy metal album ever made. I go so far as to call it the biggest disgrace in the history of music. You can forget all the good things Metallica did prior to this and simply judge it on its face value alone. It is, musically speaking, then, the most horrendous release of music the world has ever seen. No exaggeration. Because he's a guy that's listened to every piece of music ever released, ever. He's 300 years old. What the hell were they thinking to make Lou Reed the lead vocalist? First off, they didn't do that. So do your research before you write. It's like learn about something before you spend so much time writing about it.
Yeah, Lou Reed was running the show from the moment they walked in the fucking room, dude. I mean,
so
was it Lars challenged to a street fight over this album?
Oh, fuck, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming. Who doesn't want to fight Lars these days? This guy can't sing one fucking note in tune, and every time he opens his mouth, he sounds like a beat up, decrepit, senile, old, rambling idiot. The lyrics are equally as atrocious as the vocals themselves. I would quote, I would cut my legs and tits off when I think of Boris Karloff and Kinski in the Dark of the Moon. What the hell? I don't even know how to begin no, that's not what he wrote. I'm not going to make him an idiot. Interpreting such bizarre conceptions of the human imagination. But far worse than reading these shitty lyrics is hearing them being spouted in such an annoying fashion throughout the entire album, making you want to put a bullet in your head to just end the ordeal. The songs are dreadfully long and certain parts are obnoxiously drawn out and repetitive, which would be funny if they weren't actually attempting to make what they perceive as experimental metal or art rock. Those terms were never used by anyone that made this album. So this guy literally, he's one of those dudes that just like creates things in his own head and then reacts to them.
Mm-hmm. So when was this? This was August 18th, 2015. Yeah, so you've got almost 4 full years of hindsight.
Yeah. If this can be called artistic expression, then you can as well can what? Sorry. You know what? I'm literally sitting here trying to read, and I'm like, why is this so hard? Oh, because I'm not wearing my glasses.
Oh, the script has flipped. I started out this episode with glasses on, and I no longer have them on. And you?
I don't have contacts, but that's just because I just need readers. Anyway, if this can be called artistic expression, then you as well call. I guess he meant might as well call anything and everything artistic expression. Yeah. Congratulations to this fucking genius who's just realized that every kind of art that you make is in fact art. What a fucking jerk off. There's this continuous annoying sound of a country guitar twang that keeps repeating at the start of every phrase. Yes, the overall idea of mixing Lou Reed country style of playing. Lou Reed doesn't play country. This guy doesn't even know who Lou Reed is. Like, I don't expect everyone to know all this shit unless you're going to take your time to write this shit. What a fucking piece of trash this guy is.
The funniest thing about this is that, you to the listeners right now, you're currently listening to a guy who loves metal and hates country, and a guy who loves metal and grew up on country, so I have a soft spot for it. Yeah. Do the math on who's who here. But needless to say, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, dude.
All right. Anyway, okay. Playing with metal music results in a complete failure of any good riffs whatsoever. Lars's drumming. Yeah, I knew he was going to say something about Lars because this dude, like, that is like I almost feel like we need to make like there's like a jerk off battle vest.
Checklist, yeah.
And it's got, and it's literally got all these different patches, and on the back is a big ass fucking patch of Lars. And then, like,
I'm in a Facebook group called Horrible Battle Vests, and it's just people posting like the worst patch jackets that they see out in the wild. And some of them are actually kind of epic, and some of them are just abysmal. But
I actually, now that I mentioned that, if I could do it, I would want to put together a battle vest that is nothing but pictures of Lars from all these different periods.
Yeah.
But the big patch on the back is going to be when he was like the boldest he ever was. I just want like old bald Lars is on the back. And anyway, where are we?
Just an image of him going.
Yeah. Lots of tongue sticking out all over the vest. All right, Lars' drumming sucks even worse than ever, requiring no skill or talent at all and being slowed down to depressing pace. So I am also going to go on record here and say that usually when I hear people talk shit about Lars, they're not drummers, which is really funny because like actual drummers are the ones that usually stick up for Lars and, Ringo and people like that. They're like, yeah, if you're a drummer, you understand how this shit works.
Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater is very vocal about Lars Ulrich being a big influence of his, and you know it. Sure, he's not a technical drummer by any means. Whoa!
Fast and Furious going on out there.
A fucking action movie at this point, dude.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Whoa!
Yeah, I mean it's just the sound effects of my neighborhood. There's cars vrooming. There's music booming. There's gunshots going off occasionally, and dogs barking. That's it. Anyway,
that's hardcore.
Yeah. Everybody knows that there's plenty of better drummers than Lars, but it's the same thing with this guy earlier. It's like, oh, you mean like anything can be art? I'm like, yeah. Oh, do you mean like Lars is a perfectly fine drummer for what he does? Yeah. He's perfectly fine. And nobody gives a shit except for fucking complete losers who this is longer than I thought. Anyway, I don't hear any good or complex fills either. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, this dude fucking blows. Just tons.
Go listen to a tech death album then. Fuck off.
A ton of crashes on the cymbals and overly repetitive and dull. You won't find any guitar solos on this album either, and as such, Kirk Hammett's performance on the album seems to be totally forgettable. When he does play, he plays with no passion or seriousness whatsoever. How do you know that? Nothing heard on this album takes the slightest amount of musical skill to pull off. So that phrase right there, this motherfucker.
You better show up and fucking
is not
release.
A musician. No, he's not a musician. He's never been in a band.
Like that,
and if he has, it's probably the worst shit you've ever heard in your life.
Like, you know, again, like I say, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of critiques directed towards this release. However, I don't take the standpoint of it took no fucking talent to release it, because you know they have written parts, and I from what I know about the album and from what I've heard over the years, that a lot of this was jam related.
Yeah,
it's a very on the spot, borderline improvisational thing. However, that being said, to turn around and say it takes no talent, I mean, you need to be musically capable to at least, you know, make an album full stop.
Yeah.
You know, it's entering the realms of obnoxious assholery in this review very quickly.
We're getting close to the end here. There are so many low points on a musical level that it's really hard to pick a worst one. All of it is a disgrace on both a musical and artistic level. Oh, I thought it was an art. The album is 1 hour and 17 minutes in length. Oh, he could look up the time. That's something he could look up. But the amount of actual musical ideas might amount to a mere 25 minutes or less. There are many sections which simply repeat for an obnoxiously long duration as the entire latter half of the song, Mistress Dread. Now, the thing, whenever I hear these kind of complaints, it's so funny to me, because you'll literally, if they're on social media, you don't have to scroll back very far for them to be like, have you heard Dope Smoker by Sleep? I'm like, yeah. Oh, that one's okay?
Yeah.
Amazingly, the production and sound quality of the instruments are just as horrendous as the musical skill. Yes, I say it's amazing, considering that Metallica has millions of dollars to spend on studio time and recording quality, yet they purposely try to record with low-tech mixing and production. I have a feeling he was listening to this out of his phone. Nearly every other metal band in the world could put their equipment to some good use and easily make a better sounding album with minimum effort. Lulu is really a joke of an album and by far the worst idea in Metallica's career. I can't say enough about how much Lou Reed sucks and how much he brings the rest of the band down with him. The album is centered around Reed's pathetic songwriting and vocals, which are even more empty and devoid. Oh, he had to do it. He did it at the end, folks. What do you think's going to happen at the end? Which are even more empty and devoid of life than the abomination that was Saint Anger.
Again, an album that I have a lot of critiques of, and I think a lot of people do. I think the difference is when you come at it from the angle of, you know, could this have done with some self-editing? Sure. Does it change the fact that the riff in this song kind of fucking bangs? It's up to interpretation. But I'm very much of the mindset of, if anything, if any release that isn't calling for hurting anyone, anyone who sucks, at the end of the day, I've probably stumbled over myself here, but my point is, if it's not hurting anyone and someone likes it, it has value,
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think, but there's something to be said about anybody that writes that takes the time to write that. It's literally just a call for attention. So this guy, Mr. Guilty Spawn here, has only reviewed 2 other albums. He gave 100% to Stained Class by Judas Priest, which is a great album. That is not a 100% album, my friend. And then his other one is Nitro, OFR.
Fucking-rageous.
He gave that 100% also. So this guy is, So this guy is, I don't know, but that is, I think that's exactly, I almost feel like if you went to AI and said, hey, can you pretend to be a douchebag and write a negative review about Lulu? That's exactly what it would spit out.
Dude, so outrageous, the one with it's the one with fucking Freight Train on it. Hell yeah. Okay, sorry, some Nitro.
So there's the best review of Lulu on here is one that's 70% from 2021. Do you want to read that one?
I'm just going to camp out in the, what's it called? I'm going to camp out in the 2011 zone for a moment, because I'm gonna mention something here that adds a little bit of context on my perspective of this whole thing. I think in retrospect, 2011 was an incredibly interesting time to be in, like, my second year of being a metalhead, because I got into heavy music around early, like, it was pretty much like you couldn't hope for a better year zero than what I had with metal music. And essentially what that is right before you break up for the Christmas break, you see a Guitar Hero tournament in the hall of the school that you're at. Yeah. And they're playing Guitar Hero, and up until that point, like, I was very pop, hip hop minded. I don't really have any interest in Guitar Hero. But then seeing people playing it and absolutely going for it, I was like, okay, hang on, wait, no, this actually looks really fun. I want to get up on that stage and I want to do that. And, I got into metal very quickly because I realized, oh shit, all the aggression from, like, Eminem songs is in, like, Metallica songs, but, like, there's these badass guitars as well. And I thought, oh, fuck, game changer. Anyway, after a year of, like, simultaneous appreciation for the likes of Metallica and Slayer, I'd also been listening to a lot of stuff like, Bullet for My Valentine, a lot of what got played on Kerrang! TV at the time. Yeah. I was of a very formative age, 11, 12. As I entered into 2011, the waters got very muddy that year, because I was like, oh man, there's something shifting here, as things tend to do in, like, the second year of a decade. Yeah. And within the span of a very short time, Korn does a dubstep album and this stuff comes out. And I think to myself, what the fuck is going on here? And I just remember it being a really, like, confounding time to be a heavy music fan. Yeah. And being very new to it as well. Like, I was still learning where this shit came from. Like, my knowledge at this point comprised virtually 3 bands, and that was While Metallica rules, Slayer is even heavier than Metallica. Both of these bands love Judas Priest, and I was like, that's my like melting pot of old school bands from that time. I was also into bands like Trivium, and just about to enter my Enter Shikari obsession, who we'll be talking about very soon, actually, because I've reignited my love for them a little bit. Simply put, though, Lulu stood out to me because I was like, man, I don't know how to feel about this, because I also grew up with YouTube, so I was constantly being bombarded with, I'd just gotten into Metallica in the grand scheme of things. I mean, for a band that started 40 years prior, they're just about to have their 30th anniversary shows, man. They're doing this, they're doing that. It's awesome to be into this band. But I also thought to myself, oh shit, man, what do I think about Lulu? They did the most insane fucking thing near such a significant anniversary.
Yeah.
That I just remember thinking, what the fuck is going on? And in the end, ultimately, I'm sure I succumbed to some of the groupthink where I was like, I mean, it's not a Metallica album, so I'll let it slide. But I said a lot of the buzzword shit around that. Yeah. But the things that have me the most intrigued are, the interviews. No, sorry, the reviews that happened the day after it came out. Yeah. And the ones that have given it the most time to sink in. Excuse me. Simply put, I mean, the very first review is by Klusba. Sorry. Klusaba. I don't know how to say that. Either way,
sounds good.
This is the very first review of this album from November 1st, 2011, following its release on October 31st, the previous day. I have not looked at this. It's a bit of a wall of text, but it lands on the total page, so I don't have to scroll, which is lovely for this show. Anyway,
I'm gonna go ahead here, and I'm just looking through their other reviews, and
give me a sit rep, Chief.
They mostly review like really shit music.
Okay, well,
like a lot of stuff I've never heard of, but just judging the title, I go, well, I'm never going to listen to this either.
Okay,
I'm never going to listen to Pirates 2 by Visions of Atlantis. Sorry, but they gave it an 85%.
Already, it sounds like this is going to be a pretentious review. I haven't read a single word of this beyond this album. But the title for this, interestingly, they've given it a 25%.
Yeah.
Which is why I kind of picked it, because I thought to myself, if you're giving it a 0, that kind of tells me everything I need to know. If you've added a distinct number apart from 0 or 100%, it tells me that you've done a little thought into however much enjoyment or discomfort you experienced during this release. Anyway,
you're probably right there. So yeah, all right. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to listen to the Eddie Sparxx audiobook. And,
okay.
And then you lay it on me.
Okay. So are you ready? Because I'm
ready.
Essentially I'm gonna use these words to speak through me as a vessel, and you're gonna essentially respond off of that. So feel free to raise a hand whenever you have something to say. Okay, so this album will beat all the scores on any metal portal. This collaboration record between the old and tired experimental rock singer Lou Reed and the aged thrash metal legend Metallica will probably get the lowest average rating ever by the fans. My rating score will probably be amongst the most favorable reviews, because I try to analyze this output from an objective and not an emotional point of view. I may accord a score of 25 to this album, but emotionally, this is not even worth half of the score indeed. Okay, so you gave it a 0. Let's be real. As a person, you have given this a 0. Let's take a look.
But you know what? At least they seem mature enough to separate their taste and what makes something what it is. Like that's
fair play. Fair play.
Like I'm pretty sure that like for some people, Pirates 2 by Visions of Atlantis is probably really good, and I shouldn't be judging it based on the really dumb titles. But that's just me. And so I'm never going to jump in to the Visions of Atlantis message board and be like, fucking stupid.
You know what? Actually, I'm going to go back on what I said earlier as well. I've never heard Visions of Atlantis. I may like it. Yeah, who knows? But
you never know. You never know.
You don't know until you've been there. But anyway, Lou Reed and Metallica decided to work together after having played together live at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 25th anniversary show. Mm-hmm. Lou Reed had been working on a conception album, concept album. We don't need conception album. That Inception. That implies some. Featuring passages inspired by the controversial German playwright Frank Wiedekind. Either way, I know I said the W right because Germans like to say V with the W.
Wunderbar.
W. Wunderbar. Okay.
We have ways of making you talk.
I was about to say, I'm sure there's many phrases I've heard from Call of Duty, but I'm sure they're all very offensive. Lou, that's the thing. Like my German in this head right here, my German language knowledge largely comes from World War II video games.
Oh,
it's probably for the best that I don't say anything in German. With that, where are we at? I'm in the second paragraph now. Right. Lulu tells the story of a desperate and disillusioned woman that is only a shadow of her past and lives a fatal emotionless circle of sex, abuse, and despair. Sex, abuse, and despair. Not just sex abuse, I'm sure that comes into it. I'm overthinking. The emotionless spoken word vocals by Lou Reed, the minimalist instruments, the experimental style of this album, and the cold and simple album cover underline the concept. Let's note that this album doesn't feature much of James Hetfield's vocals and only a few lost thrash riffs. This album is 80% Lou Reed and maybe 20% Metallica, and this estimation is eventually even quite optimistic. I wouldn't, just coming off of that, I wouldn't be surprised if a solid 20% of this is Junior Dad. So far, just because it's that fucking long, so far, so good, but the music itself is even harder to digest as the story itself. The two artists created a lot of overlong tracks with a lack of variation, emotion, and diversity. This is no accident, but an effect that they really wanted to create to bring the story to life and give an authentic and unique twist to this experimental erectile collaboration. The experimental collaboration. The final result included, though, too many emotionless overlong passages that may even bore the most open-minded and intellectual music fan in the world to death. After 2 or 3 minutes, everything is said, but the songs are stretched at least. The dogs have something to say about that. But the songs are stretched at least 3 times too much, with a peak of almost 20 minutes of dumb and hypnotizing boredom in the final Junior Dad. Metallica said that the section of classical music in the second half of the track made them cry and really touched them, but I never heard such a boring and closed-minded piece of classical music. There are a few additional musicians.
A closed-minded piece of classical music? That's a very weird phrase, but okay.
Yeah, strange. There are a few additional musicians that play viola, cello, and violin and electronic instruments, but everything sounds as one big, indefinable potpourri. Potpourri.
Potpourri.
Potpourri. Potpourri. Sorry, I've never actually read that word. I know what potpourri is. I can't believe I've never seen that written down before. I kind of like that.
Yeah, the potpourri.
Potpourri. It sounds like some kind of curry. Don't even think about symphonic metal bands such as Therion, Apocalyptica, or even Savatage. If you read about those guest musicians who know how to mix metal music with classic passages, even Metallica's controversial S&M experiment, which I actually liked, was way more convincing than this failure. Okay, so I know for a fact that they've kind of made an enemy of old head with the classical music angle. However, I think they've been pretty fair with their critiques so far. They've not landed into pure assholery.
Yeah. This is a little more thoughtful, and that's all that really matters to me. It's like I understand that people disagree and have different tastes. It's how you approach it, and so far, for the most part, yeah, this isn't.
At this point, the bar is that fucking low. I'll accept any review that isn't just "fuck Metallica 'cause Lars."
Yeah,
it's just like they're clearly like swinging for the lowest hanging fruit that is the popular groupthink mentality of a lot of these so-called critiques.
I have to say though, like it's a lot of it makes sense more and more every year, especially now. The big thing for me that really drove home what a large group of people are like is being active on TikTok, because people love piling on. They love piling on. So much so that they won't even try to be original with their piling on. They just want to be a part of the pile on. This has become one of my favorite things to do now is, and you've seen this too, because you'll try to share a video with me and I'll like that, they're blocked. So like I block accounts on TikTok because I know that they could come through my feed and they get a view from me, and I'm like, fuck you. And the one of the biggest things that I'll immediately go over and block them so their shit doesn't come through my feed again is another pylon video, which the current pylon is Corey Feldman. That's all over the internet. And It's literally just a dude having fun playing guitar. I'm pretty sure he knows he's not a shredder, but then everyone's like, oh my God, have you seen how awful this is? And then right after that is another video of another person's like just copying that video going, you see this? And I'm just like, as soon as like the pylon videos start coming, blocked. You're blocked. You're blocked. You're blocked. And it doesn't matter if you've done some really cool stuff before. If you've participated in a pylon, you're blocked. And so that's just my little PSA. Let's be better, people. Stop piling on.
Yeah. I would make the distinction that there is a difference between making a joke out of something that is funny and just being an obnoxious dick.
Yes.
If someone turned around the other day and said, "Hey, you're objectively funnier now because you have a mustache," I'd be like, "Okay, cool. That's funny, and I actually kind of like that." Right? On the flip side, if someone turned around and said, "Your fucking mustache sucks, die," I'd be like, okay, that's not encouraging any growth from any party. That's just telling someone to fuck off. You could have saved a lot more breath by just saying the latter. But it's one of those things, man.
But the point that I was people are strange. Is that Metallica? If you had to say what metal band experiences the biggest pile on the internet, it is Metallica. Maybe followed closely by Motley Crue now, but so that's why like so many people like I'll just be like, they probably made a video where they're like, look at Lars sucks, and then I just block them because I'm just like, Okay,
Yep.
it's another fucking pylon video. So,
Dude, it's one of those things as well. Like, you know, even I have appreciated at some point a misheard lyric live video of Vince Neil saying something that isn't the words. However, you know, at the end of the day, that guy got richer, more laid, and more renowned than a lot of these fuckers ever will be.
but here's the problem with that. So the very first time I saw that the Kista Maha, where they literally like did the words,
The first time I thought it was funny.
But it's like a Borat impression. Like the first time somebody does a Borat impression, you're like, hey, Borat, I saw that movie. But then like 5,000 more people being like, very nice, or whatever. And you're just like, oh my God, no, just fucking stop. So it's like, that's what it is, because everybody's searching for content on, you know, especially on TikTok, because like, oh, you can make some money on TikTok. So everybody is just fucking desperate. So like anything, they're like, you know, that I see all the time now. People are like reposting videos where a TikToker has completely ripped off a video that they did and did their own. And I'm just like, wow, this is getting fucking competitive and shit. That's why I like what I do, because nobody wants to recreate the bullshit that I do. You're not getting any money from this, but, you know, anyway.
Honestly, though, like, we're halfway through this review.
Halfway, all right.
And I at least, despite their distaste, which likely is virtually verbatim for mine at the time when it came out, it was like, here's my mindset at the time as a barely 13-year-old recent Metallica family member. I was thinking, come on, guys! You just did Death Magnetic, and we've done another Saint Anger. It's pissed people off. This was before I realized that caring about what people fucking think is bullshit. So,
it's even more important to me now, because so few bands do this shit that really makes me happy, which is, here's our new album, and everyone goes, what the fuck? Like, I love that so much. That's why I became such a big fan of that last Avenged Sevenfold album, because, like, I heard it and I went, this is actually pretty cool. And everyone else is like, what the fuck is it? Not everybody, but a lot of people. And I'm just like, well, that's why I'm taking Avenged Sevenfold even more seriously now. Because I'm like, I wasn't into them, but now I'm like, hold on a minute, guys. I like this. I like what you're doing.
These guys got a special sauce, you know.
I'm just like, just every once, like, you could do like 2, maybe even 3 albums in a row that are similar, but then do something fucking, yeah. And I know not every band wants to do that, because you don't want to alienate your fans. And then there are other bands that's just not their style, that they would never do that anyway. But those are the bands that are not really my favorite bands. A lot of my favorite bands, somewhere in their discography is a thing where you go, they put that out? Like, that's, you know, that's how, even if it's, you know, whether it's an album or fucking songs on an album where you go, what is this? Like, I love that shit. And it pisses me off that bands don't do it that much anymore.
Here's a thought experiment. What if a band comes out and they work their asses off recording 2 albums? One is virtually a carbon copy, still high quality, but stylistically carbon copy of the previous album.
Okay.
They also record something completely fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Like, way out of their comfort zone, but it's there.
Yeah.
And they put it out on social media.
You've just described King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I think that's what they do every time they put out an album.
Fair play. They're a band I need to get into, because I've heard really good things.
They're fun.
Yeah?
They're a fun band.
basically, what I'm saying, if this hasn't been done before, a band records 2 albums.
Yeah.
One plays it as safe as you can, despite there being quality there.
Yeah.
Or they record something completely insane and off the wall that the fans don't expect. They put it out on social media and say they're completely transparent with their fans. And they say, do you want this again? Do you want something completely different? They leave it up to the fans. One album gets deleted forever. The other album lives on.
I don't trust the fans. I don't trust music people.
Exactly. Like that. That's what I'm driving at. Is this thing of, if it were to happen,
yeah,
what would it reveal?
It would reveal that most people want the same shit shoveled in their mouth over and over again.
Bingo. Right there. Right there. And that's what even if this isn't, even if it's, this is the last, admittedly, this is the last album I would reach for if I was in a Metallica mood.
Yeah.
However, I respect Metallica a lot because they're willing to do shit like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, with that, I'm gonna carry on with this review.
Okay.
But like I say, I'm outlining it. So far, what was the last part of the last paragraph, so that we can carry on where we left off. Even Metallica's controversial S&M experiment, which I actually liked, was way more convincing than this failure. Almost all songs are overlong, boring, and dumb.
He lost me with that sentence.
But I really must point out the track Little Dog. This is by far the worst metal song I have ever listened to in my life. Well, I would not even call this music. Okay, he's lost my respect at this point too, because it is literally music.
He started off. He started off pretty okay, and then he's just gone up his own ass at this point. So
funny, I was thinking the exact same analogy that you have just stated. It has a more than minimalist and exchangeable instrumental work, while Lou Reed uses a completely emotionless and blurry murmured voice to put some almost random spoken word passages over the music for 8 long minutes. He has no charisma, no variation, and no energy. This can even be defended by the fact that the band wanted to bring a desperate and emotionless character to life. Music, vocals, and lyrics just don't fit together. If you are If you are at this kind of emotional degree, you are already more than suicidal. Even a dog would moan and run away by listening to this incredible piece of garbage and try to commit suicide
my
by
dogs
biting its
quite
own
enjoy
tail. It says that by this piece of garbage and try to commit suicide by biting his own tail off until there is no blood left to be shed. This song is an open insult to psychedelic rock, krautrock, and any progressive stoner metal, as any amateur band of any of these kinds is better and more authentic than what Lou Reed and Metallica deliver with this anti-effort. This sounds like Johnny Cash on a heavy dose of cannabis just before his death. I declare this the worst metal song ever. Bold words declaring something the worst metal song ever. Which one was that? Little Dog. That is an entire paragraph dedicated to Little Dog. What do you think, Mr. Podcaster with the dog in the room, man?
what do you mean? I feel the same way about Little Dog I do the entire album. I
know it was more of a pun based on the fact that the dog was barking earlier. So
Sorry about that. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how it almost feels like 2 different people wrote this review. Like the first part of it was like pretty level headed, and then he's like, I guess he's getting increasingly drunk as he does this review. He's like, fuck it, this is stupid and dumb and boring.
Yeah, this is someone who you would have a beer with who got writer's block and handed it off to an incel. Yeah, where are we at? Compared to this disaster piece, even the really bad tracks on this overlong double album merit a few low percentage ratings and vary between horrible and pretty bad. The longer tracks are, the worse they get. Many critics laughed about the weird The View with its strange and ridiculous lyrics, but this track turned out to be the most dynamical. Okay, so that says dynamical and diversified. I didn't know testicles could be loud, but and diversified track on the album, which is only beaten by the solid opener Brandenburg Gate, which is simply too short to get redundant, even if the chorus is already repeated way too much. I want to underline that we talk about the acceptable to mediocre songs and not about good efforts, but next to the 8 disaster pieces that follow these songs sound like a relief. Anybody that bashed The View will be stunned by the high degree of failure within the song, and everything still sounds the same. Oh, sorry, hang on, I skipped a line there. The View will be stunned by anybody that bashed The View. Sorry, it can be hard to read such a wall of text. Right, disaster pieces that follow these songs sound like a relief. Anybody that bashed The View will be stunned by the high degree of failure of the rest of the record if he or she is tough enough to make it entirely through this record. Sometimes you can skip 5 minutes within the song and everything still sounds the same. Let me give you an advice. You could have just said, let me advise you. Don't waste your time and money on that. Don't buy this because you have all the other Metallica records. Don't expect this to grow on you. The album the album hadn't been out for 24 hours when this was written. So if anything's redundant, it's that statement. You know, they haven't given it the time to grow on anyone. It's not been out for a fucking day.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I got so pissed by that, I've lost where I'm at. Don't expect this to grow on you. It will probably even get worse the more you listen to this. If you didn't like The View, you'll hate the rest even more. If you liked The View, chances are elevated, you may nevertheless hate the rest. This is the kind of record one person among 10,000 will like, but I'm not into this at all. In the end, the acceptable first 2 tracks, the story and the least interesting concept itself, and the acceptable sound of the record, add a few points to a very bad final rating. I always defended Metallica and I liked all their experimental works in the past. I'm one of those who adored Load and especially Reload quite a lot, and who was able to accept the Saint Anger record, which really grew on me over the years and happens to be among my favorite Metallica albums. Okay, a few old head points right there.
Yeah.
Lulu just won't grow. There is no diversity. There is no energy. But Lulu just won't grow. Motherfucker, you wrote this
Lulu
the day
just
after
came out.
Yeah. Lulu just won't grow. There is no diversity. There is no energy. There is no authenticity. Even harsh critics must admit that the controversial Saint Anger is a masterpiece compared to this.
Wait, how do you write something that says there is no authenticity? Like what proves authenticity of music aside from the people who made it, wrote it, and performed it? That's authenticity, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I think a lot of the problem is I think people are assigning things they think the album is supposed to be and then saying, well, it sucks. It didn't do this right. And I'm like, well, I don't think that's what they were necessarily going for. They're using the word psychedelic at all for this album. There's nothing psychedelic about this album at all.
No,
I mean, to me anyway, maybe to somebody else, but
I think it's people who have. I think it's people that don't actually know what psychedelic means.
Yeah.
And they're just like, this isn't a normal song, so it's weird, and you had to be on drugs to come up with such a thing.
Are we at the end yet?
And almost.
Okay.
We're in the last paragraph. Even what is it? The release date of this garbage is a hard day for the heavy metal universe. One thing I will say is, like I said, going back to what I said prior, the release date of this garbage is a hard day for the heavy metal universe. I remember it as being an interesting day as a heavy music fan and a recent heavy music fan.
I mean, a statement like that literally just says because the metal community are a bunch of fucking children.
Yeah.
It's been a hard day.
Yeah.
You put out an album that was not what I wanted.
Yeah, there's war and famine in the world, and a band that you used to like put out an album that you don't like. Oh deal. It's a hard day for the heavy metal universe, but let's see it from a positive point of view. No matter what Metallica will record in the beginning of next year, the band's upcoming solo record can definitely only be an improvement. But they surely lost a lot of fans with Lulu who won't give them any new chance, and I can really understand this. What did Metallica think by doing this? I really think they do whatever they want and don't give a damn about anything else.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like they want it life. I really think they do whatever they want and don't give a damn about anything else. That's artistically interesting, but commercially suicidal. Well, there we go. That's artistically. You're approaching this from the mindset of a fucking sales pitch. It's a fucking album.
Yeah.
You know, who gives a shit? You know, that's artistically interesting, but commercially suicidal.
The funny thing about like so many of the things you just said, I guarantee you, if the internet had existed in 1984, they would all be writing it about Fade to Black. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just so funny that like literally since album number 2, people have been like, this sucks now. And they've just gradually gotten more and more popular and successful. And it's like, this is commercial suicide for this band. And then they put out an album that sells millions. So, you know.
To be fair, my favorite album of all time is Angel Dust by Faith No More.
Yeah.
And my reasoning for that is that the record companies turned around to the band and said, you might as well call the album Commercial Suicide.
Yep.
And the band even entertained the idea of calling the album Alienating Our Public. But ultimately, they ended up creating not only my personal favorite of their releases, but one of the most influential albums of all time.
Yeah, you could say that the only legitimacy that the critiques from the record label even held were the fact that, sure, they were riding high as like super popular, and then they lost some of their popularity, but they created longevity with their music. And so it's like, well, what are you going for? Are you trying to just stay on top, or are you trying to do stuff that creates a fan base that's going to stick around, you know, and music that's going to matter in 30 years? Because, you know, when Angel Dust came out, like, I remember that people not liking it, and I thought it was amazing, and everyone's like, oh, you know, the real thing was so much better. Flash forward to not even 10 years later, and people are already like, oh man, Angel Dust was just so influential. I'm like, what? Where were you? You were talking about how the real thing was way better. And so it's like, it's just, you know, I don't know. It was I'm telling you, I feel like I want to be challenged by music in some way, you know, like
Absolutely.
even if I don't like it, like, you know, if I hear something new and it makes me kind of go, huh? And at the end of the song or the album, I'm just like, I didn't like it. I still got something out of it, I think. That's just my perspective anyway.
I think it comes down to, as well, there's a lot of music fans that don't understand what goes into making music.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they develop a lot of entitlement because of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it really is one of those, unless you've been there, shut the fuck up kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, no, I mean, not necessarily shut the fuck up, but like,
yeah.
As the was it The Rock? He used to say, know your role.
Yeah.
Is that The Rock?
I know more than you. Shush.
But it's just like, you know, you have to come at things from the area that you live in. Like, it's like, am I just a fan that has no experience doing anything else besides being a fan? Then that's where my review should come from. So if the review is completely negative, but it's just like, look, I just don't understand this album and it didn't do anything for me and I just didn't enjoy it at all. And that's why I don't like it at all. I think it's the worst thing Metallica ever put out. The way that's all worded is like using words like I think, or I feel, or this is what it is to me. That's very, very much different than saying like there's no authenticity. It's like, no. So it's, you know, but even comes like it's the same thing for me. Like, I'm not going to critique a jazz album or a classical album or I mean, honestly, I love hip hop music, but I usually won't review hip hop albums because I don't have the experience of creating that music. And also, there's a lot of other things that just make me go, my review of this album should be, did I enjoy it or not? It shouldn't be me picking it apart, claiming to be an expert on shit that I don't know anything about. And even the shit that I do review, I never act like I'm an expert. I'm just like, here's my 2 cents from where I'm coming from.
This may sound cliche, but I had a huge awakening around the age of college. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people could say that. However, you know, I'm bringing knowledge from a music field to a music-focused podcast. The main thing I will say is I know what I know from what I have experience in, right? Yeah. Am I, you know, we've done hip-hop rankings in the past.
Sure.
Based largely on our enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
You know, it is just, it's out of love for the artistry. Neither of us, as far as I know, have any real hip hop experience, maybe beyond like a rap verse in a rock song at some point.
I mean, I've never, I did actually write a rap song when I was in 5th grade for, there's a thing in America. I don't know if it was over there, but it was called DARE. Drug Abuse Resistance Education. And
ours was called Just Say No.
Okay. They would, you know, they would come do the thing where they talk to you about drugs and you'd get a free t-shirt or whatever. But I just remember one year they had a thing where they wanted us to split into groups and like write a song or something. And I wrote an entire anti-drug rap song. Now, mind you, it was like a minute long or whatever, but just so you know, like that's the extent of my rap expertise. I wrote a minute long anti-drug rap in the 5th grade. There you go. Boom. That's everything. So I've done the work, everybody. I know why Eminem's album is shit.
I totally don't smoke weed. I don't smoke weed. That for sure is better than that. It's not what I do.
Okay, Dr. Dre. That one verse.
Never smoke weed or cess. All it does is give a brother brain damage. Brain damage on the mic don't manage nothing. Debut album is called The Chronic.
Yes, just stay tuned for my next album all about weed.
It's definitely one of the best, like, blatant pivots in any music ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is coming from someone who, like, The Chronic is one of my favorite albums of all time. It is funny. Like, it is funny listening to that NWA song and thinking, man, 4 years later, you're going to wish you didn't say that.
The album title should have been called Hey Fellow Stoners.
Yeah. Oh,
So okay, so I should go on and read this, what I think is a positive review.
Mm-hmm.
This is from Terror, Terrr, from January 26, 2021, 70%. They gave it 70%.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How long is this review? It's not too long.
Terror.
James Hetfield shouts halfway into Brandenburg Gate. Oh, okay. The review title is "Small Town Girl" in quotes, and then it says ... James Hetfield shouts halfway into Brandenburg Gate. Interesting song title. He's accompanied by some good heavy metal riffs he's playing, an old man that broke into the studio, and two stupid talentless hacks that call themselves musicians playing along with him. What the fuck? This is not positive so far. Oh, almost forgot. The old man was kind enough to bring his guitar and jam with this cool little new heavy metal band. I think they'll be successful one day. Their riffs show promise. I think the old man is talking about some of his past friends. I don't know who Boris Karloff and Kinski are. Apparently, he was in... Okay, hold on. This is a joke. It's a joke. I'm sorry to waste your time, everybody. I'm going to move on to this one. That's the 69.
Wait, hold up. Hang on.
What?
Some of his past friends. I don't know who Boris. Apparently, was in some little band called yeah, you're right. This has to be satire.
Yeah, it's just a joke. So
nobody's this stupid.
Yeah. Okay, so this one is interesting. So this is from God fucking damn it.
Wait, hang on. Can I just read the last line of that review?
Sure.
Rest in peace, Lou Reed. Hope your legs and tits are intact in heaven.
Yeah. What a waste of our time, Terror. This is from MJF712. Yeah.
Got him!
69%. And it says, at the top, it says, disclaimer, I don't hate this album. I really don't. By any sane, objective measure, Lulu is a bad album, indisputably, but I can't lie and say I don't enjoy it. More on that later. I mean, I don't think it's indisputable. But whatever. Typical headless fanboy shit. To even consider listening to this album and suspending any sort of disbelief that it could have any redeeming qualities would require a blind devotion to everything Metallica and Lou Reed have done in their respective past. That's not true, actually. I don't have a blind devotion because I do understand that some stuff's better and some stuff's not as good. Are you frozen? It was weird. I was looking at you and I was like, are you frozen? But anyway, let's see. Which unfortunately is how I came into this album. Metallica, Lou Reed, fall of 2011, Blood and Boobies. This seventh grader was fucking there to a truly unimaginable degree. Sorry, I'm just stalling because I have no idea how to talk about the pseudo music on this thing. All right, well, this is already an interesting thing.
Wait, hang on. That's kind of a giveaway that they were like in the year below me.
Yeah.
At school. So
I tried to keep this short for my own sanity, and because so much has been said about this album already that there are enough nuggets of truth and fairness in each review here and elsewhere that the honest picture of Lulu could be pieced together by a curious and open-minded listener/reader, i.e., more than enough has been said about this album, and it should just be totally left in the past. You hypocrite, my conscience. Okay. But even one word about Lulu being written in 2019 is too much, so I figure I might as well buckle down and go to Pound Town on this thing. I'm not going to read this anymore. The riffs are not good, mostly butt rock. All right, so if you use the term butt rock, I'm sorry that I'm abandoning these, but
sorry, I just saw a line and it made me laugh. Hey, do you want me to take over from this one?
No, I don't even want to read. I literally I wanted somebody to bring something to the table, but like once you start using phrases like butt rock, that's literally just saying that you're very limited in what you actually know. Because
I think I'm just thinking about myself at the seventh grade level in 2011, and one of the paragraphs starts with, "The vocals are just complete and total AIDS." Fuck's sake.
yeah.
Honestly.
So, well, you know what? That was a fun experiment, but we're looks like the good review of Lulu is literally this episode. What we're saying about, because I mean, it's so funny because like I understand the shortcomings of this album and the awkwardness of this album, and some of it is a little laughable at times, and I don't think it was on purpose, but that's really as far as it goes. Like, sure, the songs could have been shorter, but they weren't. This is how they were intended, and some of them are very repetitive, but there's a lot of fucking music out there that's very repetitive, and I still enjoy it. Like, I don't listen to this album and I don't really get bored. Even fucking Junior Dad, which is a fucking long, was like 20-minute song or some shit. I don't get bored at that either. It's just I find enjoyment in this album, and I just don't like people speaking in absolutes about things, you know, like it really rubs me the wrong way, because I try to not do it unless I'm kind of jokingly doing it sometimes. Like, I'll refer to Ride the Lightning as the best album ever, and I know to me that's a silly thing to say. It's my favorite album ever, that's undisputable, but best album ever, no, because like all these other fucking great albums exist too that mean something to other people. So that's the thing that really will get stuck in my craw is people speaking in absolutes about something, about a musician or an album or a riff or songwriting or a band or whatever. It's the absolutes that just make you look like an absolute douchebag. So just, stop it.
Well, I think that's a good point where we should switch from an overwhelmingly negative review stance to shining a light on some underappreciated gems that I think this is a good point at which to transition over to albums that don't necessarily get as much critical acclaim as because like you say, looking for a positive Lulu review is a needle in a haystack situation.
We got trolled.
Yeah. But you know what? I've spotted something that looks really cool. I've happened upon, I searched up another favorite band of ours, Faith No More.
Okay.
And here is, I sorted all of their reviews from highest to lowest. And I waited until I found an album that's, highly rated that isn't talked about enough. Here's a good one.
Is it album of the year?
No, we've got We Care a Lot, the debut.
Oh, yeah. I love that one.
This is I think this is gonna improve the vibe on your end.
Yeah, it's gonna make me feel better because I love doing these videos, but I need a what do they call it? Respite or whatever.
Yeah.
Where just
you know what? We've been in the trenches now of Lulu. Let's move it on over to some albums that deserve a lot more praise, getting the praise that they deserve. So, We Care a Lot, Faith No More, and this is by a reviewer known as Primate from November 24th, 2015.
Okay.
And the title is Just as Innovative as Angel Dust, 98%.
I would agree that, yeah.
You know what? In 1985, aside from maybe Killing Joke, who are a big influence on Faith No More, no one was doing anything that sounded like Faith No More. Faith No More's unique ingredients are their own thing, and I stand by that. They're 5 musicians at any one time pulling it from completely different places that makes only the music Faith No More can make.
Yeah.
So without further ado, let's get into this. Faith No More's 1985 debut was an eccentric and rarely repeated marriage of underground post-punk and Sabbath-inspired heavy metal. It is often dismissed as Faith No More's very worst record, although in my opinion it is just as creative and unique as the band's later output under Mike Patton.
Yeah.
Faith No More's origins can be traced back to the late 1970s. They began as an artsy, synth-loving post-punk band fronted by a man named Mike Morris. There was basically no connection to heavy metal or hard rock music, but this changed when Jim Martin was recruited in the mid-80s. His thrash metal riffing gave Faith No More a heavy edge that set them apart from their dull underground contemporaries. Around the time Martin joined, they settled on Chuck Mosley as the frontman after a slew of early vocalists. He had a very off-color, mumbling style of singing which added yet another level of strangeness to the band. After signing to indie punk label Mordam, they commenced recording what eventually became We Care a Lot. The obvious low-budget production helps give the music an appropriate raw and dirty feel. The title track, which later became a minor hit in 1987, is the only song here which I would classify as quote-unquote accessible. It could be mistaken as some early Red Hot Chili Peppers song thanks to its thumping bass and anthemic chorus, but the highlights of the later cuts, Why Do You Bother and As the Worm Turns, they're dark diatribes revolving around unemployment and disenchantment towards society, perfectly complemented by Roddy Bottum's heavenly synths. Humorous punk rock romps like Mark Bowen and Greed have a sarcastic, quirky tone, which helps establish that Faith No More aren't all doom and gloom. The album's heaviest moment is arguably the instrumental interlude Pills for Breakfast, which showcases Jim Martin's heavy metal background and Mike Borden's tribal drumming. It can conjure up all sorts of weird images in one's mind by name alone. I consider this far superior to the cheesy pop found on The Real Thing. Now hold up.
Oh, what?
Hold up. Wait a minute. I consider this far superior to the cheesy pop found on The Real Thing and roughly on par with the band's other records. It will be reissued next year by Billy Gould's record label, which means it may finally get the public praise it deserves. I'm going to say one thing. I think this is an incredible review. Personally, I think The Real Thing is a game-changing album, and it is not only incredibly influential, but just a fantastic record. However, for the most part, in fact, 98% of this 98% review, I agree with, you know?
Sure.
I think that sums up how I feel about that album.
Sometimes I think that the word pop is thrown around too much when it really what they mean is catchy or melodic.
Yeah,
because there's nothing on The Real Thing that I would necessarily call pop. But there is catchy melodic vocals on it, so maybe that's it. But I just that's just, you can't just throw the word pop out there, you know. But
funnily enough, there's a 92% review of.
Oh, did you just that was the end of that review?
That was the end of that review.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I like that album so much. I have 2 versions of it. I have the original and I have the band reissued version, which has like extra shit on it. And I think it's fucking great. I love every Faith No More album. But yeah. Cool.
So, is there an album that you feel particularly affectionate towards that doesn't get the love it deserves that you would like to highlight? I'm kind of on a Faith No More kick right now this episode. It could be argued that I may end up on a Faith No More kick most Reviewculous episodes.
Let me look at something real quick because I want to. I want to do one for like an album that's very special to me. It's very important to me.
Okay, sounds good.
And as I came to look it up, it's such a lesser talked about band and album, but this album only has one review. And it's Creep Diets by Fudge Tunnel. This is a very important album to me. Doesn't get enough. The band doesn't get enough attention, except for me. People are probably fucking tired of me talking about Fudge Tunnel. But this person gave it 72%. Creep Diets from 1993. I would like to read this review of this album that is very near and dear to my heart. This review is from 2012, so almost 20 years after the album came out. The early 90s were a heady time for heavy music. A raging stew of diverse genres were converging one atop the other in a riotous succession that left the open-minded music lover with a wild array of diverse and interesting choices to pursue. Abso-fucking-lutely. By 1993, death metal had peaked, punk had broke, alternative sounds were dominant, and a new wave of heavy noise rock was making inroads, riding on the back of 80s stalwarts like Sonic Youth and Big Black. Out of all of this diversity came bands who didn't quite fit into any one particular niche or category. I could have fucking written this review so far. Fudge Tunnel ranked among them. Too heavy for grunge, yet not particularly metal. They were a noisy groove machine who grew just large enough to garner some interest and attention before succumbing to the glass ceiling of an overcrowded scene. Being on a record label that didn't quite suit their material didn't help things either. But with all the 90s nostalgia currently going on, you'd think Fudge Tunnel would be in line for their time in the sun, but so far it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened in another 10 years either, just so everybody knows. They're getting a little bit, I guess, I feel like a little bit more recognition, but yeah. The dust collects on their rep and their music remains mostly unloved outside a few dwindling diehards. I was certainly among them, repping my Fudge Tunnel shirt all through high school and early college, but as my ears got turned on to their antecedents, I found myself listening to them less and less. Okay. So it's with great interest that I spin Creep Diets again, trying to take an objective approach to an album that meant a lot to me as a young teenager, and the sounds that hit me are wholly unsurprising and familiar. Serrated sheet metal riffs that cut deep through rollicking grooves, buoyed by a bass forward rhythm section, swinging in tough strides. Once again, why am I reading without my glasses on? With a subtle jazzy touch. It sounded so fresh at the time, a loose and easier variation on the post-thrash heavy groove formula pioneered by bands like Helmet and Prong, and then vastly imitated by hundreds of other bands. Fudge Tunnel among them. In retrospect, they had nothing that original to the formula, perhaps a touch more Big Black noise and a lazier swing in their groove, but in the pantheon of alternative metal, bands like Helmet, Quicksand Therapy, and Tool, the comparison is weak. Fudge Tunnel's music just doesn't add up. Okay. The vocals are a major hindrance. They are raw, monotone, lacking in power, bordering on irony. Well, yeah. When the groove hits just right and Alex bothers to add a little emphasis on what he's singing, then the combination works, but oftentimes his vocals sound listless and dull. Well, I mean, I don't really agree with that, but they're definitely like not intended to be the forefront of the music. The noisier elements, distracted at best and a major detraction at worst. Okay. The noisier elements are also somewhat irritating, clearly an emulation of Big Black, but without the greater focus. The intense wall of noise the guitarist constructs often comes at random intervals without any clear pattern or necessity to the music. Yep. It gets tiresome, particularly on the closing track, Always, which sounds like it was willfully obstructed and gleefully demolished at the cost of somewhat interesting song. Yeah, they're not wrong. These affections also date the music, delineating Fudge Tunnel as followers chasing sounds others had already perfected. I don't agree with that. Subtract these defects, and now you've got some great music here. Fudge Tunnel know how to maximize a groove and trade off on its power and layered dynamics, escalations of tension followed by massive room-shaking release. The big riffs from Gray, 10%, and Face Down are all stubbornly catchy and energetic. Almost 20 years later, they still make me want to grab a skate deck and hit the streets. Don't Have Time for You is the kind of confused, mopishly angry acoustic anthem that, if it were not drenched in mountains and slabs of stabbing feedback, might have made a huge alternative radio hit. I also dig the post-rock kind of Fugazi-ish Hot Salad interlude, a track that really lets the rhythm section shine, but which they do throughout. There are some derivative riffs on here, however, like the title track, which could pass for Helmet until the vocals kick in, and Grit comes uncomfortably close to sounding like an Unsane clone. That said, there's no denying that Creep Diets is catchy as fuck, despite being almost wholly derivative. I think that this is somebody writing that word in hindsight. I don't think it was derivative as much as it sounds now. Obviously, they had bands that they were influenced by for sure, but no. Anyway, anyone with an appreciation for second-tier heavy alternative rock bands will probably find a lot to enjoy here, but it is sobering to realize that my teenage infatuation with Fudge Tunnel was mainly a lesson in underexposure to stronger bands with better material. I don't agree with any of that. A lot of the bands that this person is connecting them to don't actually sound like them. They just have some of the same elements. I could see the Helmet and maybe Unsane, like that kind of, that's in there. But in 1993, and also having spoken to and interviewed Alex Newport, he wasn't listening. He wasn't influenced by Helmet. I'm pretty sure. I think it just great minds coming to a similar conclusion, you know?
Yeah, it is just further proof that society peaked in the 90s.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'll never try to argue that album is some sort of like, you know, special thing that everybody should love, but it's definitely one that spoke to me in 1993 and it still speaks to me today. Like it's still. And I think this person also kind of told on themselves, because it's like, well, you really loved this music, but then you just abandoned it. And I'm just like, I mean, I don't really get that, because it's like, you know, the music that means something to you, I don't think you ever.
It just stays with you.
It stays with you, even if you're not like listening to it actively. There's that music that's just, especially when you discover it when you're young, that's kind of ingrained in who you are. And so I don't know. That's an interesting review, because the part of it, I'm all like, I am 100% on board with this, and then I'm like, well, I think you get to a point where you're picking things apart so much from a hindsight perspective that you can just be like, yeah, you know, I didn't listen to like great music then, but I started listening to better stuff, and now I'm not like, just save it. It's
sure, buddy.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, thank you for indulging me with that.
I've happened upon one that's quite cool that I think you're going to like. Okay, so I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Okay.
I'm just going to let you figure it out.
Okay.
And I'm going to slowly watch your face go from like to.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. Okay. This review is titled Beyond Words.
Oh, it's extreme.
It is 100%.
Oh shit.
and it starts off like this. It's by a user by the name of Demons and Fire,
Ooh, all right.
which is going to endear you more and more to this review when you figure out who it's by.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So, because seeing this put a smile on my face. For the longest time as a kid, I refused to listen to this EP. It wasn't the Alice in Chains I was used to. It was somber, slow, and calming. Not loud, abrasive, and heavy. Sometimes a change in a band's style can scare a listener away, like it did me. But once you realize that this is the same band you love, you begin to break down that wall of fear that your band has changed. Beyond words, I am so glad I decided to listen to this. Sap is the EP that made me love Alice in Chains as a band of more than just hard rock.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that sentence. That's honestly where it really started to click with me, was with Sap. So yeah. All right, cool.
Awesome. Well, you're going to love this. These slow songs with melodies and vocals that echo with a more subtle discomfort are what makes good music. In a sense, this feels like a Bob Dylan record. Acoustic guitar and softer vocals make for a bluesy vibe. However, the style of alternative rock is still present. Changes in the song, such as quiet to loud, keep the grunge side of Alice in Chains alive during the songs. Alongside of Nirvana's Unplugged cover song, this EP hails the the music that came before them. Post-punk's smooth gloom and blues's gritty undertones come together to make a match made in heaven. More artistry seems to have been put into this album to prove that Alice in Chains is not a one-trick pony. Coming out the same year as my favorite album of all time, Dirt, we can see a more mature side of the band coming together. A side that comes out in songs like Down in a Hole, Rooster, Heaven Beside You, Black Gives Way to Blue, and the entire Jar of Flies EP. This EP seems to fly under many people's radar, though it may be some of their best work. Lyrics for each song have a strong appeal. Brother is rich with imagery and a feeling of a drug trip. Got Me Wrong. Sorry, I almost said Got That Feeling. I was still thinking of
Faith No More.
Got Me Wrong has this eerie tone that forces you to hear this kind of sick confession. Right Turn is about the use of heroin and the addiction that ends up following the user. Am I Inside is about an antisocial lifestyle. And Love Song is just pure randomness. The lyrics are golden, just like the most of Alice in Chains' discography, excluding Love Song, which I would consider more of a joke track. None of us are under the impression that it's anything but Chris the Midget.
Yeah, what gave it
Chris
away?
the Midget. This EP seems to fly under... sorry, I've read that part. The songs are excellently structured. I wouldn't expect anything less from Jerry Cantrell. He is such an underrated guitarist and songwriter. While Lane Staley's vocals are great, he harmonizes with Jerry Cantrell, Chris Cornell, and Mark Arm, and Ann Wilson perfectly. He has never disappointed me with any performance he has done. Right Turn would not sound anywhere as magnificent without Chris and Mark. Brother and Am I Inside? I always get those fucked up, sorry. Brother and Am I Inside require Ann Wilson to sound right. Amen, brother. She adds this angelic feeling to these angst-filled lyrics. The guitar work is great, remaining in a simplistic sound that still gives us complex tones. Alice in Chains cannot disappoint me. They constantly bring me back more and more with every release. While I was not alive when this came out, a fellow post-Alice in Chains fan, such as myself, it doesn't take a genius to understand that this is a work of art. I love hearing these songs on stormy nights and just, oh man, this guy is speaking my fucking language, dude. I love this guy. I love hearing these songs on stormy nights and just having these dark lyrics overtake me. A perfect EP. The that makes me long for the 90s Alice in Chains. This is an A+ in my book, and it rivals many other great works that came out in that decade. Boom!
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that speaking of, I really think that at the end of the day, people shower Jar of Flies with so much love, and they treat Sap like it doesn't really matter. When really, if you break it down, the only thing that Sap did wrong is it doesn't have Nutshell on it. Because I think that's what people are so heavily invested in Nutshell. But that whole EP is fucking great. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But if I had to choose which one I like more, I like Sap more. Sap is, I just like the songs overall more.
Yeah. Even as someone who ranks Jar of Flies above Sap by a very thin margin, I think of them as borderline level.
Yeah.
For me, it's that 1-2 punch of Rotten Apple and Nutshell, and then you follow it up with I Stay Away and No Excuses. I mean,
yeah,
the quality that comes out of this band is staggering. Like, it's one of those things. Did you ever hear something as a kid, like, you know, and I mean this is in, like, you know, getting into music and stuff. Did you ever hear something where it was that good you couldn't believe it existed?
Yeah, well, yeah.
That was me with Alice in Chains. Like, even as someone who loved Metallica, Megadeth, Ugly Kid Joe, you know, Faith No More, all these other bands, the one band that I was like, this is the most perfectly crafted thing I've ever heard. Like, Alice in Chains was that band for me that was just indisputable. Like, I hear someone turn around and say something like, oh, Mike Patton's really nasally on The Real Thing. Oh, there's no bass on And Justice for All. I can't get into Dave Mustaine's vocals. Who the fuck is Ugly Kid Joe? But then, Alice in Chains, right? Alice in Chains, even with my peers, into the 2010s, those who knew about Alice in Chains fucking knew about Alice in Chains, because it is that one band that is that fucking good.
Yeah.
That they transcend not only genre, but generational boundaries. And I just remember hearing Alice in Chains songs and just being consistently amazed, especially with their 90s output, just like, and even with their modern stuff, man. I mean, Jerry Cantrell is just like the king of the riff at this point. The torch, Iommi has handed the torch to Cantrell, in my opinion. you know, it is just, oh man, like even reading those words, you know, this is what I love about Reviewculous, is we get to laugh at bad reviews, but when we get to read these good ones, it's like, god damn, dude, it's like hearing the songs for the first time again. And it's the fact that Sap not only has the audacity to be an Alice in Chains release, but has Ann Wilson on it.
Big
love.
it honestly, like that I agree. Alice in Chains is a band that, like, recently over on my TikTok page, I did that thing, the ranking grunge bands.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously on mine, I put Nirvana at number 1 because they're the most meaningful to me, that they're my second favorite band of all time. But like, I see other people's, and it almost annoys me when they don't put Alice in Chains at number 1. Cause I'm just like, wait, what? Because, like, for me, it's like a personal thing. But if you were to say, like, can you be completely objective? I'm like, oh, Alice in Chains is number 1. Like, it's like they're like,
for me, anything lower than the third spot viscerally pisses me off. Like, you know, anything lower than than at least second place, pushing it. But like, you know, I can get, you know, I completely understand why you put Nirvana at first place. For me, for me personally, there's no contest.
Yeah.
But I mean, god damn, dude, when you look at Alice in Chains' output, even their grower albums for me have ended up being, this is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
You know.
But but on the same token, the thing that you were talking about, where when you hear something for the first time and you can't believe it exists, that was me with Smells Like Teen Spirit. Like that 13-year-old kid seeing that music video and hearing that song. I just remember, like, it made me just like want to go and listen to like all kinds of music, because I'm just like, is there stuff that's this amazing just out there, and I'm just happening to stumble upon this? Because at first, like, Nirvana was not a big deal. Like, they became a big deal very quickly, but at first it was just a thing that spoke to me. There was no group think. I was 13, so I didn't have anyone else's influence except for hearing the song, seeing the video, and my little mind just feeling like this is the greatest thing that I've ever experienced, musically speaking. And so, and that's why that band is so important to me, because I love everything they did, but that connection to that band just opening up so many doors in my brain, at once, it was fucking great. But at the same time, if you're going to leave out all post Lane Staley stuff, if you're just putting 90s versus 90s, then I would say I would, if you didn't have the same sort of like passion that I have for Nirvana, I'd be like, well, why didn't you put Alice in Chains at number 1? Doesn't make any sense. Somebody on that thing commented and said that I put Temple of the Dog too low because I put them at 10. And I was just like, no, that's where they belong, because they're not actually a band. That's a project. That's an album. But people talk about Temple of the Dog like they were this band. And I'm like, no, they weren't.
As someone who utterly adores that record, it's a one-off supergroup made as a tribute to Andy Wood from Mother Love Bone, who passed away.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about the grunge scene is that, not only from the ashes of the likes of Mother Love Bone, Green River, all of these early grunge bands, they all had this nerve to suddenly, like, post Nirvana, all of these bands show up on the scene like, yeah, we're all fucking amazing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do about it? It's that there's something to me, even as the 80s fan that I am, there's a very clear common through line of hair metal bands where they all share, like, to varying degrees, right? You've got hard rock songs amped up to 12, flashy imagery, flashy guitar work, rudimentary rhythm section, incredible vocals, right? They all had a different flavor to it.
Yeah.
But it's largely the same formula, quote unquote, with making some exceptions.
Yeah.
The grunge scene, on the other hand, is just this melting pot of so many incredible artists being in the same place at the same time, and this just explosion of these bands that had like a punk ethos but a metal approach, and varying degrees of that spectrum. Like, I made a video years ago called Grunge on the Spectrum.
Oh yeah.
And it's literally like a 3-way Venn diagram of why grunge is such an all-encompassing, amazing thing. And I think the only band that sat directly in the middle of everything was Soundgarden. But
yeah, I mean, that right,
incredible time.
Yeah, that's another example of why I say that I was spoiled, because, like, imagine living in a time when you're discovering music and like my mind is completely blown by Nirvana, and then like, oh, there's this Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, like they're just there.
Well,
it's like,
didn't Nevermind, Blood Sugar Sex Magic, and Bad Motorfinger all come out on the same day?
and oh, yeah, maybe they were the same day.
That's insane to me. Like
Yeah.
the idea of that quantity
Yeah.
of quality happening simultaneously is mad.
But like,
And
but like seriously, just think about this. Think about like two years ago. So we're in 2024. Let's go. Just go back to 2022. How long ago does that feel? Like, not very long.
no, it's weird. It's weird.
So okay, those albums all come out. You have Nevermind, blah 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 blah. 1992, Angel Dust, other amazing albums. 93, you have like Chaos AD and all these other,
Yeah.
like literally like this really small period of time, all of these albums that not only were exceptional, were not cookie cutter. You did not get the thing that you were expecting to get. You got something that, depending on your taste, you loved better or worse, but it's just like, it's just literally that entire time period, starting in the late 80s, just discovering Living Color and Faith No More, King's X, then of course like Anthrax, Metallica, going into the 90s, discovering all the grunge and all this other, like that period of all this fucking music it blows my mind that I'm like, it was this short period of time
Yeah.
that all this shit happened. So,
Well, one thing I'll say is this: like the insanity of with the retrospect of how long we've been doing this show.
yeah,
If we speak relative to things, right? We started this show in 2020.
yeah,
The same amount of time has passed between us starting this show and us to this present moment. If not more time has passed. The same amount of time, if we're just talking years, has happened between us and Cherry Pie by Warrant and Super Unknown by Soundgarden.
yeah,
That's a fucking huge jump.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
in actual fact, yeah, it is a smaller span of time because Cherry Pie came out September 11th, 1990.
Never forget.
Never forget. I was waiting for you to say that.
Sorry, guys. Too soon, right? Too soon.
And Super Unknown came out March 8th, 1994.
Yeah,
The stylistic change in 4 years between Cherry Pie
yeah.
and Black Hole Sun.
Let's give Cherry Pie its due, though.
I'm not disputing quality. I'm disputing stylistics here.
Yeah,
The jump, stylistically alone, I love both songs. Between Cherry Pie and Super Unknown
yeah,
in a 4-year period is nothing but seismic.
Yeah.
That is utterly outrageously huge.
yeah.
The evolution of music that takes place in the early 90s is staggering. And even as a person who didn't see it firsthand,
Yeah.
I can see from my own personal experience that's mental.
It's quite aggravating from my point of view too, because if I really start to think about it, I feel like I took it for granted and I did not enjoy it enough. I really enjoyed it because music was my life. By that point, by 91, for sure, music had become like my entire life. Like that was all I thought about, really, for the most part.
There's stuff from like 20 14, 15, 16 that I can hear, and I'd be like, yeah, that's coming out now.
Yeah.
And weirdly, when you break it down year by year, sure, there is an evolution.
Sure.
Like I watched a video the other day that really put the 2010s into perspective for me. You know, as someone who lived through the 2010s as a preteen through adult,
Yeah.
or young adult, the changes I wasn't aware of at the time because they were that gradual.
Yeah.
But when I look back and I think, oh yeah, dubstep was irrelevant by 2015, apart from like Call of Duty montage parodies, and like the ukulele hey ho thing as well. That's something of that era.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I agree.
Once again, that's an opinion, which is why you're not going to see me doing a review of any of those albums.
But it is that thing, though. I did watch a video, and the big thing, popular music wise, that altered during that time is 2016. 2016 was like year zero of what we have now, and I never realized it at the time. All of a sudden,
what's the example of that?
If I find the video and you watch it, it highlights, you know, chart positions and stuff, and it's like 2016 overnight we go from EDM influenced pop straight over to hip hop, and it's like this overnight thing.
Yeah.
In 2016, where it's like I never noticed that going through it. But
Yeah.
to be fair to me, to be fair, yeah, to be fair to A, where I was at personally, and B, the musical climate at the time, I had no interest in pop music at that time. I was interested in the heavy music of old, and
Yeah.
so I was deep in grunge. I was deep in hair metal. I was deep in thrash. I was into all these old school genres, and I would say, from like 2014 to about 2018, I was very, you know, 80s based. And then somewhere in 2018 and 19, I was just like, actually, I'm in my 20s and I like everything now. And it's just only grown from there.
Yeah.
But I think the big takeaway from that for me is that I'm finally able to put biases aside and like look at something as a quality thing. Like if you'd have told me in 2011 that I would be listening to Megadeth, NWA, and Willie Nelson in the same car ride would be happening, he'd have laughed at you. And now here I am, more open-minded than I've ever been.
Yeah.
Listening to stuff from all across the board, you know?
And I think at the end of the day, if everybody just focused on, well, what do you enjoy and not what are you supposed to enjoy, then it would be things would feel a lot differently, especially in the metal scene. I honestly remember feeling the shift when hip hop became legitimately the most popular music in the world, because people started writing articles about that, and you would quickly see all of the boomers and my fellow Gen Xers that I like to refer to as the boomer lights. They all started posting this shit like, see what that music's gone down the fucking tubes. Because like they were fucking mad that hip hop was so popular. And I was like, it fucking earned it. It's been going since the late 70s, early 80s, and then its first little bit of popularity in the early 80s. It spent enough time paying its dues to finally be on top. You know, it's like rock music got to be on top. All right. It maybe it will again one day, but right now that's not the case. And, you know, and the only thing that seems really significant aside from hip hop is Taylor Swift. That's it. It's those two things. But anyway, But I like this conversation though, because it actually kind of ties things together, and I feel like it's a good ending point because we started off by talking about Lulu, which was the focus of the most of this episode, but then ended up talking about the stylistic shifts in music and appreciating that or not appreciating that or recognizing that. And like that's why Lulu is an important album to me, because like I like shifts. I like not just in music that's popular, but music that coming out of a band. And I feel like it's kind of a cop out for a lot of people to say, well, bands are older now and they're set in their ways and they're financially secure. And so they don't experiment the way they used to. I'm like, yeah, but they could if they wanted to. And that's my problem, is that they don't want, not all of them, but a good chunk of bands that have been doing it for a while, they don't want to experiment. And that's kind of sad to me, because I don't think if I was in that position, if I was in a band that had the notoriety of, say, I don't know, Overkill or Exodus, like, not the biggest of those bands, but people know them and they have
heavily respected in the
they're
scene.
heavily respected. Yeah. I would still be like, oh no, we already did this kind of shit. I would like to spice things up and do something different, even if it's just random songs in an album. Maybe we can still have some straightforward thrashers with the similar riffy kind of things, but how about this next song we like get real slow with it? Or how about this song we throw in some acoustics? Or how about this one we throw in a fucking drum machine? Who the fuck knows? But I don't feel like that would ever stop with me. I don't think I would ever be like, well, I don't feel like experimenting anymore, because like, what the fuck? What's the point then?
Yeah, and what I will say is that just because I turn around and say, I want the early 90s to happen again, that doesn't mean it necessarily has to sound like the early 90s. Yes. I just want a swath of interesting stuff to just be pushed to the surface, like it happened back then,
And it's out there. There's some of it out there now, but it would be cool if that was the stuff that was getting all of the TikTok videos,
Yeah. I'm under no illusion that there is more. I mean, if you boil it down to sheer statistics, there's probably more great music out there than there's ever been, because the population of the earth has doubled since at least the 1940s. So surely through sheer numbers, there's got to be more great music out there. The only problem is that we live in such a individually algorithmed world that everybody gets kind of fed their individual flavor, and there's not really a monoculture anymore, where like everybody tunes into the same TV show to see the same cool shit that's really popping off right now. It's, oh, this came to be in a Facebook ad because I like this specific equation of shit, you know?
One of the best things for me as a music fan now, because I'm constantly trying to find new shit. That's why, like, at the end of the year, when I do my top 10 albums of the year, I always phrase it as my top 10 favorites, because there's always albums that I didn't even know were out, and a year later I'll find it and go, where the fuck was this album? So I mean, you can't listen to everything and know everything, but in this day and age, the one thing, and this is, I'm sure nobody listening to this is in any of the bands that I would be following, but the one thing that I really like is bands promoting the music they like and their friends' bands and stuff, like saying, oh, this new album from this band's coming out, but it's like, another band is promoting it, saying, oh, check this out, because I immediately will go and listen to whatever that is. And if that's something that I end up getting into, I follow that band. If they're promoting some other band, I'm going to go listen to that one. So it's almost like I rely on the people who are in the shit. I'm all like, whoever you are, whatever your taste is, like, I just want to know. I want to know about it, because there's no way that I'm going to know everything that comes out. But every little bit that I get, every little bit of a point in one direction, it could be like, 98% stuff that I'm like, this is fine, I'm not into it. But it's that small amount of when you stumble upon something where you just go, this is fucking rad. And you would never have known it otherwise if you hadn't clicked that thing where the person says, oh, this is my buddy's band, go listen to this or whatever. So I'm like, that's the thing that I'm like, more of that. Because that's what I do online. Like I'm not a respected musician by any stretch of the imagination, but my whole thing is like, here's what I listen to and here's what I'm enjoying. Some of it's old, some of it's new, some of it's well known, some of it's not well known, but I just feel like I want to keep that kind of vibe going with everybody. Like I don't want to see your video about how you don't like Metallica, but you're going to review their new album anyway and say that it sucks. How about give me a review of the new shit you're into that you think is great? And just leave that other shit behind, because like that's what's keeping it going. So I'm on my soapbox of shit that I say all the time. So
no, you're spitting facts, dude.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's one of those things where I really do wish that positivity was more of a selling point in music than negativity.
Oh yeah, if it meant, I would love it if positivity created clicks and positivity sold, newspapers, or what, nobody reads newspapers, but you know what I mean.
Even I'm guilty of it. You see a spicy, salacious headline, and you're thinking, "Oh, that looks interesting," and it's just like, man, what happened to, hey, check out this new Soundgarden single, and your mind is fucking blown, or check out, even down to, I mean, the thing that I arrive at whenever I think about this is just the quantity of quality at that time.
Oh yeah.
That was being pushed in the mainstream was nuts. And it's, again, there's nothing to say that, quality and quantity aren't compatible.
Mm-hmm.
However, for my own personal taste, and I think for a lot of, people who like heavy music with a twist, you can't go wrong with the early 90s, because not only was the grunge scene popping off, grunge adjacent hard alternative stuff was also being pushed. So if you had an interesting take on loud guitars, you were golden for like 5 years. It was nuts. All the way from bands that are unfairly categorized, like, Saigon Kick. I mean, just the melting pot of amazing stuff.
And that's the thing that I think it's become a little bit better now with everyone's opinions hindsight wise, but MTV, and I'll say this till the day I die, the importance of MTV cannot be understated. And it was a cool thing for a little while to be like, MTV ruined music. I'm like, how? Like, so much of the stuff that you motherfuckers are into, you would not have heard. It's the same thing with me, especially when you're talking late 80s and early 90s, because of all the bands that got that shot. Like, you're gonna get a major label album and a video, and maybe you don't make it, but somebody like me hears it,
This string of words invalidates that entire argument. Headbangers Ball.
Well, yeah. But even then, people complained about Headbangers Ball because they were incorporating things that weren't straightforward heavy metal. And
fuck them.
Yeah. So, but now you see these memes where it's like, oh, would it be great if MTV still played music videos? No, you motherfuckers shat all over it. Yeah. like most people, like, so
don't know people, what you got till it's gone.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, that that's why I feel like it can never even come back, though, because if it did come back, if all of a sudden there was a 24-hour music channel, on regular television or on cable or whatever, people would still find shit to fucking complain about. And I'm just like, it's just ridiculous to me, because it's like, we had such a good thing, with and it wasn't like you just had to watch MTV. Like, if you were a person who was out in the music scene, you were knowing about other music. You could buy indie music zines, Maximum Rock and Roll or Flipside or whatever, and you could read about smaller bands too. It was out there. So just pointing the finger at MTV, I'm just like, well, that's kind of ridiculous, because MTV never pretended to be anything else than what it was, which was just, trying to not only like celebrate the trends, but create the trends as well. And if that trend is we're gonna promote this Nirvana band, like, great, thanks for doing that, because that's how I saw it. And anyway, I feel like we're just like I think that anybody that's like still here right now, this is a really great conversation, but I feel like we probably lost a lot of people. They're like, it was fun early on, and
this is the beautiful thing about Reviewculous, because I find the last couple times we've done it, and especially this one, we always land at the philosophy behind what we do. You know, it's probably like the deepest thought we put into any variation of the show, because it really does come down to the human experience of going about listening to fucking music in the first place. Boil it down. What is the point of listening to music?
I mean, enjoyment, right?
Exactly. Boom. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. And if it's not hurting anybody, fine.
Yeah. That's that. I absolutely agree. There should be, but like maybe one day it'll.
Anyway, this next one's called "Entrails Ripped from a Virgin God."
On that note, let's wrap it up. I think we've pushed the 2-hour mark here for sure.
Yeah.
So peanut butter platypus, aluminium squirrel, Belvedere ball sitters, and Christmas dogs. Thank you for being here. You're all the best. In the podcast world, we don't forget about you. Thank you for listening to NPR. Nice. So, this has been Reviewculous 2, Electric BoogaLulu. We went a little bit off we went a little bit off the rails at the end there, but that's what these CNR sidebars are all about, really.
That's the beautiful thing about Reviewculous, is that it's almost like a behind the scenes. You get to see the inner workings of the Cranked and Ranked machine, and I think that's beautiful.
It is indeed. And in case you guys are curious, the next time you see us, we will be ranking a band, and it will be a band that I know them a little now. But they are not a band that I really knew at all. And
we're much like 2011 was an interesting time to be a heavy music fan. 2024 is an interesting time to be a Cranked and Ranked listener, because holy shit, do we have a roster of episodes coming up. Like, I'm looking at our quote unquote set list.
Yeah.
We must have got the longest set of all time.
Well, that's the thing. I get comments all the time on social media of like, are you going to do a Cranked and Ranked of this band? And the answer is always, they're on the list, because they are. They're all on this long ass list, but then it's just like, placing them together, and then to give you guys a little glimpse behind the curtain, doing videos like this that aren't the Cranked and Ranked actually gives us more time to sort of marinate on music and really put together a more thoughtful ranking, as opposed to trying to fit in 10 or however many albums in a week. Especially for a band that we may not know, one of us may not know.
we could half-ass it and give, a very surface level one take version of listening to stuff. Alternatively, we can, like you say, let things marinate, and which gives us greater context overall. And I'm really excited about this string of episodes we've got coming up, because
same.
Boy, oh boy.
All right. Well, yeah. So that the boy oh boy starts next week, or whenever we come back, which will probably be next week. But once again, thank you very much for listening and for watching. And we love you. And any parting words?
Alice in Chains slaps, dude.
They do, as the kids say, that Alice in Chains song is a bop. So, don't they say that? Anyway, I don't know.
Alice in Chains has Riz.
Yeah. Alice in Chains is Skibbity Toilet or something.
As long as it's not Ohio, we're good.
Oh, I don't know. That's what I don't know. What's Ohio?
Ohio's a cringe ass state. Sorry, Ohioans, but it is the largely agreed upon thing that Ohio. Unfortunately, if you are an Ohio listener, I do apologize. Watch it become a slur in 15 years is all I'm saying.
Well, we certainly hope that you didn't find this episode to be Ohio. But that's all we got. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And as usual, I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Eddie Sparxx to take us out.
We're going classic here. Later, dude.